Alright. So welcome everybody. This is NERDS of Northland. This will be episode 7, I think. We usually record at my house on Mondays, and this Monday I had a little bit of car trouble. Ended up being a small radiator or coolant hose, cheap fix, but we weren't able to record together this week, so we are going to be doing it sort of remotely. I'm going to record my own, he'll record his, and I'm going to figure out how to stitch them together, so hopefully this edit turns out well. So this episode we're going to call Meet the Nerds, be a little bit about us and why we are nerds, our nerd origin story, I guess. So I guess I'll just get into it. I was born in Duluth, Minnesota, a small town up here north, pretty close to Canada. It's on the tip of Lake Superior, a pretty well-known landmark. I grew up in a small suburb close by called Hermantown. My family lived about a half mile or so down the road from my partner here, Jacob. And we rode the same bus in school and had a lot of the same classes, which is how we met, I think in 94 and 95. We actually went to preschool together through Hermantown School District. And we've known each other ever since. I don't know if we were... I don't know. It was a couple of years before we actually hung out. I don't exactly remember how that went. But we did go to preschool together, which is always a fun fact. Only person I think I know that I went to preschool with. But yeah, growing up in Hermantown, it was nice. It was the kind of place I could, roam the neighborhood freely and, just be outside, doing what I wanted until the streetlights came on. Like, I don't know, older I get, I started to feel like an old man, but those are the days. It was nice. There was kids all over the neighborhood. There was a bunch of us. It's a good place to grow up. I think, be a good place for anybody to experience, I think. My school was... Looking back, it was a good school, and I didn't make it very easy for myself, but it was a very sports-centered school, and I couldn't play sports, so I gravitated towards more movies and video games. I actually have muscular dystrophy. It didn't really show too much until my early teens, but sports just weren't an option for me. It just wasn't going to happen. But as I said, I gravitated to movies and video games. Jacob happened to live right down the road, and he was the same as me. Didn't play sports. Whatever, but we had connected early in our life because we both loved games like Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger, Mega Man X, and countless other Super Nintendo RPGs and adventure games. I can vividly remember going to his house sometimes on the weekends, and we would pick out a stack of 6 or 7 or 8 new Super Nintendo games, or not new, but Super Nintendo cartridges, and we'd happen to play all those for the night or the weekend I was there. A lot of fun, like in the old days. This has been a time, later on in the N64, GameCube, PS2, PlayStation 1. I had an original Xbox. I had a Dreamcast. From Mike at a gaming PC. I wasn't really in the PC world a whole lot. More emulators than anything. But that was that. And growing up, we were always nerds. We used to write strategy guides for games we wanted to make up. Never really finished any of them, but it was interesting, draw the weapons and the enemies and dungeons and that kind of stuff. It's always fun. No, Jacob ended up actually making RPGs now. Dream Daisio. Recently, or very soon to be released on Steam. I'll check that one out. Pretty cool. It's his first release game. I'm sure he'll tell you more about that in his section. I think the first version of RPG Maker I ever used was probably in 2000, not long after it was released. And I messed around with it a lot. I never actually finished a full title. I shouldn't have the focus, and I don't know, another fall through as a kid, like most of us didn't. We also had this expansive, imaginary world we used to use. We'd call it going into thought, and we'd go to this special world, which was fantasy world where we'd run around with swords and sticks and stuff in the woods, and involve every fantasy character from any movie or game we could think of. I don't know, it was interesting. I got older, and at 18, I kind of moved on. I kind of moved on my own for a while. I kind of took a break from gaming. I moved in with an ex who I ended up staying with for 12 years. It's a long story. Yeah, I'll get into that some other day. Probably not. That is what it is. But I'm going on my own for the first time. Gaming kind of took a back seat. I was working. I didn't really have a console of my own, and I was focused on other things for a while. But I always kept up on news and everything. But I really never had a console to play on my own. If I did, was this an emulator on a phone or a computer or something I could play real quick, but not much in-depth gaming at that time. And eventually, when I was with Max, I did go to school, so I had to get a pretty beefy gaming PC. It was when Fallout 4 was released. I remember I was able to run it on Ultra on release. I was pretty excited. Now it's a paperweight in the corner. I don't know what to do with. It's just a piece of junk. Nothing even more than anything inside of it. Even the hard drive is probably not worth it because I don't even know if it's viable anymore. But that's PCs though. Now I got my Alienware with my 3080 in it, and we'll see how long until this thing's a useless brick. Hopefully a few years. But now I remember how I got back into gaming. I was actually somebody had a PS2 that was broken, and I remember they offered it to me. I took it or paid $10 for it or something stupid, but I took it apart and it was just dirty. It was like in a smoker's house that no one took care of, and it had a power cord that was like almost cut in half. So I just like cleaned it, replaced a couple little screws that were missing, put it back together, got a new power cord, had a PS2. That's when I kind of jumped back in. I got to start catching up on the games I missed, and this was Xbox 360 era, so I was already a generation behind. And I'm not really sure I ever caught up. As gaming, I guess it goes. But I remember that was when I first experienced. I think it was FF12. I had missed out on. I haven't really played Final Fantasy for a long time. I think the last title before that was 10. Obviously, I mean I never played it online, but 12 was just very good memories. It was a very, very great game, but. After that, I mostly kept up with the gaming. I mean, I did have an Xbox 360 for a while. I had a PS4 for a while. I do have a current gaming PC now, which is nice. But do have a lot of retro stuff still. I have a lot of modded consoles. Hoping to mod more. Would like to try to do that. I think it's kind of cool to make technology do cool things that it wasn't necessarily built to do. It's really enjoying. But now, not too long ago, actually, 5 years ago, I won't get into too much, but it was a divorce, and my marriage ended very, very badly, and I made some bad decisions for a few years, so gaming kind of wasn't there for a while, but no, I did realize, like, when things got real bad, when I just didn't want to deal with the world, like, video games were always an escape. They always have been. That's probably the best part about video games. Like, oh, you had a bad day? Well, now you can go save the world. It's always a cool idea, I guess. During those dark times, I guess I still gamed a little bit, but not as much as I used to. I did write some of this out. I know what I'm talking about. Not really sure. I thought I had something else to say after that. But, I do remember the games that helped me escape. And over the 12 years I was in a relationship, like, I could really afford to stay current. We had 2 kids, and current video gaming and technology is expensive. I've always been a generation behind. Like, I had a PS3, at the very end of my marriage, and I got a PS4 a couple of years ago. Now I have a Switch. But for the longest time, I pretty much gamed on my PC for years until it died. I did do some PS3 gaming, but to be honest, the PS3 era kind of missed me. Wasn't a whole lot of titles that were memorable to me that I really liked. It's like we jumped from PS2 to PS4. I know probably a lot of PS3 games. I probably played them on PS4. That's probably why. But I think around 2013 is when I went to school, and I got a decent gaming PC for the first time in my life, and really brought me into the PC spectrum. And the only reason I wasn't in it for a while is because last generation consoles were a lot cheaper than a new PC, and I happened to just get a killer deal on a PC that I still kind of can't believe I got, but is what it is. Nice. I'm gonna use this a lot now. I'll be using it more to do things like this. I finally got myself a high res monitor, which I never had before. It's a huge difference in games like Forza. I don't know if I really notice it in shooters because I don't really play competitive shooters, but that still looks nice. HDR is cool too. Oh yeah, I was just saying, after the 12 years, my ex, we were 10 good years, I guess. We had 12 years together, 10 were good, 3 of them married, almost. But we did split. And, without too much detail, the events leading to it and afterwards led me to kind of the darkest time of my life, which I still kind of feel like was up today. Which kind of brings me back to gaming. But my nerd origin story, like, games have always been there. So I was doing this thing, I was doing to keep my mind occupied, to get my mind off of crazy things that are going on, or get out of my own head for a little bit. But at 30, which is coincidentally when I got divorced, I guess, but it did seem like it's accelerated. Like I had my own yard and 2-story house and kids 5 years ago, but now I can't do stairs anymore, and I spend half my time public in a wheelchair. But so now gaming is a lot more. I don't know about prevalent, but I don't know, I guess I'm getting a lot more into gaming. I don't do as much physically anymore. It's hard. That is what it is. And moving forward now, like that's why I'm doing this. Something to focus on, something to talk about. Hang out with my buddy Jacob. We'll be actually recording in person here on Monday. I think we will. My truck was fixed. Cheapest breakdown I ever had. Not normal when I break down, get towed away, and I'll have to spend less than $300. That's a blessing. I have to say that. But this ended up being about as long as I wanted it to be. So about 10, 15 minutes. It was good. So it was a little bit more about us. We'll have more of a traditional episode next week. Probably do some sort of list. I don't know. I do have some ideas. I don't know if anyone else has any ideas. You're welcome to submit the comments. I always love interaction with our videos. It's always nice. Another thing I thought about was our 10 favorite YouTube creators, because YouTube is such a big thing in our life, and we're on YouTube. So, Jacob being a game designer, I'm guessing we would have a very different list. Like guys like the Unsub guys and Mr. Ballin, which I guess Jacob and I both have, but I don't know, it could be an interesting list. They got adventure games, we've got favorite Zelda game. There's so many things we could do. Keep talking here on Nerddom. Jacob's game Dream Days is released soon. I don't know how many times you heard him say that, but you're going to hear me say it too. Check it out. I was a game tester on it, and I will be a day-one customer for sure. Even though I was given it for free, Jacob, I'm going to buy your game. You're not just going to give it to me, nerd. All right. Well, that's it for me. Hopefully this edit turns out well. Let me know what you think. Guess you got a little bit more of insight into our nerdiness and why we're nerds and how we became nerds and how we met. So, a little bit more personal touch to this podcast, video, series, YouTube channel, whatever the hell you want to call it. See you next week, everybody.
I just want to tell you a little bit about me. Hi there, everyone. My name is Jacob LeRoux of Nerds of the Northland, Critical Hit Community, and my own studio, CosmoRetro Studios. I wanted to tell you a little bit about me. I grew up in Hermantown, Duluth, Minnesota, kind of like a suburbs area, but some rural area. I lived in, I wouldn't say, I guess they're suburbs, yeah, but I lived in a smaller house. But anyway, I just grew up playing outside, playing video games at night, playing outside in the day. I was a good student all through school. I loved art, music. Made a lot of good friends growing up, close friends. Some not so close anymore, and some are, like Joe Mosier, a good friend of mine that you guys know, from Nerds of the Northland. Yeah, cool guy. And he also test plays games and very knowledgeable with RPG games and with life in general. Joe is very smart with a lot of life stuff. And anyway, and growing up in Hermantown, Minnesota, and Duluth, it was pretty fun, pretty good. It was you get used to the cold winters and hot summer sometimes in August. And yeah, I just good student growing up, liked playing outside, playing video games at night, mainly RPG, Super Nintendo, and Super Nintendo. I play a lot of Game Boy Advance, and unfortunately don't have some of that collection anymore, but I did. I have a collection now. You can see some up there. I do have but growing up, we did have games, but when we lost the house, my family lost the house in the 2008 crash, financial crash, and I lived in other places, friends' houses, my ex-girlfriends. Another thing about me is I've had 3 ex-girlfriends, 3 ex-fiancées, I guess you can say. Andrea, high school sweetheart between 2007 and 2010. Aubrey, psycho, between 2011 and 2014. Yikes. 2016 was Gina, which I thought was going to be like the perfect one. Going to start a family. And I actually raised her daughter for 6 months. That wasn't my blood, but I was the legal father for 6 months. So, but anyway, it was really stupid what she did to me. She put me in jail for a few days for that. All I did was yell at her, and they still did that. I did like a lot of classes I had to take. It was so stupid. But after that, my journey was to go to college, and it took a few years. And a little bit about me: I've had about 6 cars in my life. A Toyota Camry is my favorite, and right now I don't have one, but next year I want a truck. But anyways, eventually moved in with my aunts, and then Midway Road, and then now here at and it's the house my dad and my uncle, everyone grew up, whole family grew up in, and I'm gonna own it after my uncles. And this whole game design, I'm in the industry now. I have my own company, so college helped me out. You can see my associate's degree right on the wall there. My bachelor's will be up above it, and I made it on the National Scholar Society. What is it called? I made it on the National Society of Collegiate Scholars. But anyways, that just means you did well, and I'm proud of it because Full Sail University is a really good college, and they actually teach you everything you need to know in the game industry. So it's hard if you don't care. It's really. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's better medium level if you do care. But it's really hard if you don't care. Obviously, you gotta have your own passion. You gotta be passionate. Um, and I told him I want to teach after 20 years of making games. But yeah, so that was a quick overview of me. I don't really have any teeth, if you can't tell. Actually, because of Mountain Dew. Even my dentist knew that. I have a Mountain Dew habit, and I need new teeth. I need dentures, but that's my only health risk is my dentures, and I have a problem. I get sick when it leaks in my stomach. It's really gross. But other than that, I just think positively in life. I almost died 12 years, or 13, 12 years ago. My buddy that I thought wasn't drunk, but he got drunk fast and he flipped the car, and we both almost died. But luckily we didn't. So, but anyways, that was. Other than that, just yeah, that's about everything I wanted to say. Right now, I'm actually doing the best. I'm better than ever. I'm trying to get out of the financial hub, but my first few games and working hard will get me out of there. And other than that, yeah, I will own this house someday. Gonna keep making games for a living and keep being friendly to all my kind friends. And you guys are all awesome. This was quick, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about me. Another thing is I'm a bass player. I was in a band before, and I love music so much. If you can't tell, game, all the games I like, speed runs, everything is musically is really awesome games, good games in general. Um, I guess I can talk about the games more. About I like speed running. I like Twitch. It's a good hobby, but I also like casual gaming, obviously offline and online. Yeah, and for the Critical Hit community, I'm just one of the admins. So join the Critical Hit community, or at least watch us. We do 1 or 2 events a year for charity. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. So hope you all have a good one. Also, I wanted to say that my father means a lot to me. I miss him every day. He died in 2017. Me and him grew up playing games together on the Nintendo Super Nintendo. He introduced me to games when I was 4 years old with Super Mario 3 on this Nintendo. Well, actually, we used that Super Nintendo back in the 90s. But yeah, I just wanted to add that part. My dad means, and I hope 2 things he wanted from me: get new teeth and go get my game design career going with college and my own company. I did one of those. Time to get new teeth, right? I just wanted to add that part. And yeah, you all rock.